I think I'm there now, Chairman.
Yeah, Harry, well done. Okay, I think we are now streaming live. Shall we start, Mr. Town Clerk?
Yes, we are streaming live now, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, welcome everybody this evening. This is Andrew Hutton. I'm the chair of the Budget and Policy Committee. This is basically, you all know the rules by now. We'll basically start with a roll call of everybody who's here to make sure they can hear and they can contribute. Just the rules that you do know: if we have a vote, obviously it's only members of the committee who can vote. I'm quite happy that everybody can speak, but keep yourself muted most of the time, please, and just indicate with either the raised hand or wave at me if you want to speak. And if lots of people want to speak, we will try and get members of the committee first, okay? I think somebody has got a radio on or something. No, that's fine. I was getting some interference. So can we have a roll call to start with, please, then? Can you just indicate that you're here? Councillor Squire, Councillor Johnson.
Yep.
Councillor James Ellis. Councillor Leslie Crawford. Councillor Jeff Moody.
Present.
Yeah, Councillor Virginia Parker.
Present.
Councillor Ursula Mann. Thank you. And Councillor Harry Smith.
Present.
Okay, thank you very much. And remember, we are streaming. Right, can we start with apologies for absence, please?
We have received none, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We are, of course, quorate. There's enough of us here. Confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting, which was the 20th of October, 2012. Are there any comments or any inaccuracies that people want to raise?
Just move them as a correct record, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. Is that seconded? Okay, thank you very much. So I'll sign those at some stage, please, Town Clerk. 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Remember, either declare things now if you think they may be relevant, things we're talking about, or you declare them in the meeting as soon as you become aware of them. Has anybody got any declarations at this time, please? Okay, that's fine. Right, I think then we'll go on to 4, budget preparation and precept, which obviously is one of the major things of the meeting. The Town Clerk has obviously written a comprehensive report for us for this, and I'm sure he'll want to speak to it in a minute. But can I just start, not so much for councillors, but in case anybody in the Joe public out there is listening or any press, can I just sort of reiterate where we're up to, sort of set the ground really, because I think it's important that we all know where we are and then we can work where we're going forward. Historically in Tavistock, the bulk of our income, unlike most councils, obviously is derived from commercial income rather than local taxation, which we know is the precept. This year, we've lost a lot of that income due to COVID. The pannier market has had to close for a long time, and we've had to help our commercial tenants. In the past, commercial activities have subsidised community council services, and in this area have consequently kept local tax relatively low. And just so people understand this, roughly for every £1 of council tax, towns like Tavistock Council gets about £2 normally in commercial activities. So therefore, we've got a problem this year with our budget because we've obviously not got the income in we've expected. What have the council done about this? They've not ignored this. The council's done a lot to help mitigate this. They've saved about 200,000 by not, for example, fulfilling roles of people who've left the council. We've furloughed staff. We've cut some services, not lots of services, but some services that weren't as crucial. We've got grants that we can from government, though that's been very limited to what we've been allowed to get, but we have got some grants to help us from the government. There's been some wonderful value engineering on our 2 big projects of the Guildhall and the public realm works at the Guildhall, which again have saved the council money. But despite this sort of decreased capacity, we've done an awful lot of council. We've kept the cemeteries going. We've done play areas have been doing. We've helped bid reopen the town streets. We've got the pannier market going beautifully. People love it in a very COVID safe way. So we have, despite the problems, done extremely well. And we've obviously offered help to West Devon when we need to. But what we need to do now is look forward to how we get the rest of the money we need for this year and the rest. It'll probably mean we may need to use some of our reserves that we've amassed over the years to help for major problems like this. And it also, of course, means that we almost certainly will have to raise the precept, as the local people will have this year to pay some more tax, unfortunately, to help pay for this COVID budget. So really now that's sort of just setting the scene of where we are. And can we now go over to the clerk's report, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I think you've set the scene incredibly powerfully. The report itself sets out, as you said, the position that we're in, the support which has, or in practice for our sector hasn't been available, which potentially has been available to both principal councils and or the business sector, what we've done to help others during that process, what we've done to seek to mitigate the position within the financial year. The appendices then reflect the income assumptions which members have made following a finance workshop to understand and to estimate how long COVID might last for, what the impact will be on the retail sector, and how long social distancing itself may last, and what the longer term local economy may look like. It also includes the savings that you have determined to make in year. And as you rightly point out, that's in the order of £200,000 so far. And we're hoping that we'll be able to make more, but that's something which we'll need to look at in January. When you look at the projected figures for next year, we have also included recommendations from your officers in terms of where budget savings can be additionally made, albeit perhaps in some cases on a short-term basis, but recognising the emergency nature of the situation the council itself finds itself in. Then the report goes on to look at the possibility that you might be able to, either in this financial year or next, repurpose the earmarked reserve of £50,000 that you currently have for the burial ground allocation. There's a separate conversation to be had in part 2 of this meeting with regard to the potential availability of other earmarked reserves and how those themselves might potentially be deployed, again with a view to alleviating the financial position the council finds itself in. I should add that before we close on this item, in relation to the report does make a reference to car park charges. Now, at the time the report was drafted, we were anticipating that was a decision that the council would be making at its January meeting. For the information of members present, I contacted West Devon Borough Council to see what the timeline was for them making their car parking order, because it's always helpful if you can piggyback on an existing order by way of defraying costs and ensuring a consistent approach, so that people only have to look in one place to see all the car parking order provisions. They are actually running with their car parking places order next the 8th, so next week at their council meeting. So I will be requesting councillors, if it is the wish of this committee, to make a recommendation for a change to car park tariffs in the Guildhall car park, to make a recommendation tonight that we can provisionally pass on, subject to ratification by full council on the 15th, in order to put those wheels in motion. It doesn't bind the council, but what it does do is it gets us into the machinery, if you like, of making the order, rather than us having to actually pay for that ourselves, which would be a significant expense coming in at the end of the process. So I need to make mention of that. At your next meeting, you will be looking at fees, a schedule of proposed fees and charges in particular, and we will also have another day with your accountant, because as you'll appreciate, this year has been by far the most challenging year in terms of preparing accounts, and of course that's happening alongside the capital projects of the Guildhall car park and the Guildhall itself. The other factors that we will have greater clarity on then are what the outcome is in relation to our Kickstart, our grant application to Kickstart in relation to COVID-related costs for the Guildhall. We will have better insight in relation to third quarter income streams. We will also bring to you, because as you'll appreciate, the income which is shown within the figures which are before you for the current year is income invoiced, not income received. So you will have income received figures available at that meeting. And you'll have an update regarding where we're at in terms of capital projects and the extent to which we might be able to make monies available from the general reserve. I'm also hopeful that we might have news in relation to some other grant applications that we have sought support for, which will have been determined by that stage. And I'm also, in that regard, pleased to confirm that we have received notification in the last 24 hours from West Devon Borough Council, who are administering the current government support scheme, that we have received a £3,000 grant in relation to the pannier market. So that's the broad situation in terms of where we're at. I think the key element for members is, if you are comfortable with the income projections, with the savings projections for this year and for next, if you are broadly comfortable with that, to endorse that in principle and subject to the further piece of work that you'll get at your next meeting, and then to look at the particular areas of the burial ground reserve and indeed the tariffs for the Guildhall car park, if you're happy to look at that. And of course, we'll pick up on any questions as far as we can that members may have. Thank you, Chairman.
Right, thank you. Right, let's leave the car park and the burial costs until the last bit of just a general discussion, really. I mean, who would like to lead it? Councillor Smith, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I think it's interesting to read within a very good report, which by necessity is written in commodious terms. We find the use of the words macro risk, which I think emphasizes the sort of times we're actually in, the sort of great scope of dangers we might face. The recent finance workshop has proved, I think, invaluable, necessitating only one amendment to the councillor's wider financial view at that point in time. The amended allocation to the rolling capital fund is undoubtedly justified. And anyway, we have always valued the input of our long-serving accountant. It's not possible to predict the outcome of the Kickstart application. And I think a negative outcome would necessitate substantial rethink on our part. But when you look at it, we have a high quality application presenting a very real situation. And I think hopefully we'll be successful in that. We've taken great steps to balance the budget. And I think that anything that leads to a call on the reduced rolling capital programme, that would be a very unwelcome change. I welcome the government's COVID-19 winter plan, which was published late November, but has been updated today. The plan must, I feel, give us hope. When you look at it and read it, it gives us hope that the predictions with regard to income correlate with the plan laid out by the government for the road back to normality. It is, of course, too early to predict the income of the ability and what might happen with the ability for opening of extended hours we'll have on local businesses. We don't know what will happen there. But it is worth noting from the report that there's great credit given to the working from home in the transmission reduction, and a statement within the report today of a strengthening of government guidance on working from home. I do appreciate, though, the officers, all their efforts in respect of the overall framework and the resource envelope of previous years. But we propose that this committee ask the officers to revisit the areas of temporary staff and website design and maintenance. My reason for requesting, Mr. Chairman, requesting another look at these areas is that our period of transition from now to an authority supporting a visitor attraction, hoping to achieve and hold on to 30,000 visitors plus a year, there may well be a need for the use of skill sets we don't currently possess. And when we work in cooperation with THT, we might also need some extra skill sets to make sure that we have a robust internet presence shared between us. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Town Clerk, do you want to say anything at this stage about things like staffing in the future?
I think just briefly, Chairman, I mean, I think Councillor Smith identifies the fact that the new world for the Town Council will not be the same as the old. And what I mean by that is we are at the back end now of a 7-year capital delivery programme supporting essentially the heritage, the retail sector, and associated premises within the town, both within the ownership of the council and with private sector landlords. So that has been a long journey, and that's the 7 years of delivery. Before that, there was a preparation and all that went with that. So we're moving really from a capital delivery focused organisation to one which is going to be, I would anticipate, subject to the views of members, much more focused upon softer partnerships rather than hard partnerships around delivering those kind of outcomes, although there will be some hard partnerships within that. That requires more emphasis around policy, around promotion, around being able to access grants, around being able to actually draw together strands of community working and what goes with that. And I think what we'll see as we go forward in the new year is some posts will need to be replaced on a like-for-like basis. So if I take the community compliance officer, that will undoubtedly be the first appointment that we'll make as a council, and that will be on a straight like-for-like basis with what it was. But as we go through the year, in terms of filling the other posts, some will be like for like, but we will need to look at what we need going forwards to deliver for this council, because those skill sets, as we've identified, are going to be different, and because the resource base of the council itself is going to be different. So I see the points that Councillor Smith has raised as being part of a journey over the course of 12 months in the new financial year, as we both backfill some like for like and we develop other roles to fit the requirements and the demands of the organisation going forward and the aspirations of the membership.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Any other comments, thoughts at this stage? No? Are people quite happy then to basically do what the Town Clerk has suggested, which is endorse this report for now, and then let him carry on with the work as things become a little bit clearer? Yes, we've got a proposal. Yes, I think so. Everybody in agreement with that? Does the clerk? I'm going to talk about burial grounds and the car park. Okay, but the report itself, everybody seems happy with. So everybody in favour? Yes, please. Okay, thank you. So we'll do that. Right, can we now go on to the burial ground reserve? What this is about is basically there is a £50. Has it gone quiet? Sorry. No, you can't hear me, sorry. We have a £50,000 basically reserve for the burial ground. And what has been proposed by the Town Clerk, and it seems very sensible really, is this is basically to make sure that in the future we have enough money to buy land so we can bury anybody who wants to be buried there. We have at present many years of burial capacity left in the town, but there is 50,000 there. That what we're proposing to do is this reasonable that money could in effect be borrowed, inverted commas, to help pay off some of the bills for this year. It will at some stage need to be obviously put back, but this year we could use it. Any thoughts on that matter, please? Yes, Madam Mayor, yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. this was something that I have long supported. At some stage, we will run out of burial ground down on Plymouth Road, and the town will need to have some more burial spaces. I think we are faced with such a financial situation at the moment that we need to use this money, and it is there. It's not a capital reserve, so we are able to use it if we wish to. But we keep taking from the burial fund, and sometimes we don't put back. At some stage in the future, the town council must seriously start to put money aside for a future burial ground, because it's not just about buying a plot of land. There will be, I imagine, huge costs in preparing it to be suitable for burial in the town. So I'm happy for it to go forward now, but we do need to bear it in mind in the future that we need to do something.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ewings, please, would like to speak.
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to concur with the Mayor that we've been through this scenario quite a few times. I think we've even got up to 400,000 before now, and we've had to borrow it back again and not replace, which is the bit the Mayor is concerned about, and I agree with her. We have got to do that. We've even borrowed from play parks before now, because we used to set money aside from that as well. So I do agree that we need to do it this year, but we really must look at putting it back. We were looking at some land within the Callington Road development at one point, and we tried, I think, looking at some land up by Kilworthy Farm area, Madam Mayor, from recollection, up that road somewhere.
We own some land up there, don't we? Part of the 1911 Bedford sale.
Yeah,
so it's probably a bit out of town for any burial, I would think. Councillor Mrs.
You know, we've got to, you know, just keep our finger on the pulse. I think there was a figure given a few years ago as to how many years we had left, and then the general manager, I think, added by about 10 or 15 because we hadn't looked at a certain part of the algorithm, as the trendy word is, general manager, and I haven't been on a course. So, you know, I can't remember what it is, Wayne, what the figure is. It's probably about 17, 18 years. Is it still left?
In the region of 30.
Oh, right.
Right, so we've got a few years yet, but you're both right. We need to be aware that we will need the money at some stage. Councillor Ellis, please, would like to speak, I think.
Thank you, Chairman. Wayne's answered my question. 30 years, there's going to be plenty of space for you, for most of you. So.
From all the oldies, thank you. I think everybody's in favour. Is anybody against borrowing this reserve for now? No, so I think we can happily say we're happy to borrow the reserve, Town Clerk. Now, the second thing is Guildhall Car Park. The fees in the Guildhall Car Park have not gone up for a long, long time, I gather. And obviously, we've slightly decreased the number of car parking spaces. So I think it's been proposed that really this year we need to think serious about putting the prices up. So any thoughts, please, on the matter? Town Mayor, please, Anne.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I can't recall us putting the car park fees up in the Guildhall since I've been a member of this council, and that goes back to 2003. Have we, Councillor Mrs. Ewing? We have.
Sorry.
Okay, well, anyway, it's a lot.
30p an hour.
Sorry?
It was about 30p an hour when we first started.
Right, okay, but it's still very modest compared to what's charged in West Devon Borough Council car parks. The Russell Street car park is 70 pence for half an hour and £1.30 for an hour. I think it's time that we had an inflationary rise. We haven't had an inflationary rise for a long time. Since I've been on the council, inflation, according to the Bank of England, has been running at 3% a year. So I'd like to propose that we increase the charges in the Guildhall car park from 30p for half an hour and 60p for an hour to 50p for half an hour and £1 for an hour, with the same concessionary charges for disabled blue badge holders, so that they pay for their first half an hour and get the second half an hour free.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Any comments, thoughts? Councillor Parker, Virginia Parker, please.
No, I'd just like to second that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to say anything on that? No, can we have a vote then? Those in favour of the proposal, then the proposal is that it'll be 50p for half an hour, £1 for an hour, and disabled people will pay for the first half hour and then get the second half hour free. So all those in favour, please. Anybody against? Okay, so that's carried, please, Town Clerk. Okay, thank you very much. Right, I think we can go on to the next one now, which is 5, Statement of Internal Control. This is similar, I think, to last year, but can we just give it to the Town Clerk to explain it to us, please? Over to you, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, the Statement of Internal Control sets out the controls and arrangements for assurance that you have in place as an organisation in relation to the management of financial risk and your financial affairs. Generally speaking, it will not change from year to year unless there are material circumstances which require change. Typically, you know, continuity and prudence is a good thing in relation to financial management. So this reflects what you have, but it is good practice to always review it on an annual basis. It is here to see whether or not members are comfortable. It still reflects their needs and their wishes, and if so, to endorse it.
Thank you very much. Any comments from anybody? No. Are we happy to endorse this then? Can we have a show of hands, please? Those in favour of endorsing the report? That's fine. Thank you very much. Thank you. 6, Guildhall Car Park. This is to consider a request from the Devon and Cornwall Police for a parking bay to be made available for its dedicated use. This is something that they do have a space at present, or they did have. And in fact, I'd like to ask our General Manager, because he's come up with a nice possible solution here, which I think may help everybody. Over to you, please, Wayne.
Obviously, because the amount of reduction that in relation to spaces with the new design of the Guildhall car park itself, it doesn't make sense or lend itself to having a designated parking bay, which potentially is only going to be used for a couple of periods per week for a short duration. Obviously, one of the main key elements that the police are keen to demonstrate is a presence within the town centre. And that's why they like to park in space where it was previously. What my suggestion is that we actually allocate the space adjacent to the Guildhall toilets at the end of Market Road, which is currently hatched and isn't a car parking space. So right on the end of Market Road, where you've got no right turn, which basically will deal with exactly the same principles of what they're trying to achieve, which is demonstrating a police presence within the town centre, provides them continued access, and also doesn't have an impact on what is already a reduced car park from the new design. So that's my proposal.
Thank you very much. Any thoughts on that from anybody, please? Councillor Ewings, and then Councillor Harris-Smith, please, and then James Ellis.
I think that's a good idea, Wayne, because it actually, yes, they've got to go round to the roundabout, but they're quite often going that way anyway, as opposed to just shooting out across Plymouth Road. I think it is a good solution for using an area that we don't necessarily use without taking one of the valuable spaces in town. As you say, it was rarely used before, and we can't afford to lose any revenue that would be coming forward. They may say that actually it won't just take them directly across into Plymouth Road. They're going to have to go around the Godolphin roundabout. So, you know, they either want a space or they don't, you know, and we're trying to accommodate them in the best way that we can. And I think this is an ideal solution. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Harris-Smith, please.
Yeah, we've discussed this a couple of times. We've been looking at as the Guildhall car park has progressed, and it simply doesn't make economic or any other sort of sense to position them somewhere in the car park as it's currently laid out. The proposal that's been brought forward by the general manager is the obvious one from a point of view of the car being able to be seen, and avoiding losing very valuable income for the council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor James Ellis, please, and then Councillor Moody.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Wayne's suggestion was something exactly I was going to suggest, so I fully endorse it, and I think it's the best plan for what the police want and for us to provide the maximum.
Thank you very much. Councillor Moody, please.
Thank you, Chair. I totally support as well. Just some technical questions. Is that still on the private road area owned by the council? Even though it is, and it's a hatched area, are there any traffic orders that are required to allow the police to park on the hatched area?
Does anybody know? Wayne, do you know the answer?
That is something we will be required to review. So potentially.
Okay. I get the feeling everybody is in favour of that. Is that right? Everyone in favour, please? Please show. Good, thank you. As just an aside, as a police surgeon in Manchester for 13 years, I was very aware that the police basically parked their cars wherever they wanted.
Surely we should have been voting on that to be deferred to the general manager according to the traffic orders. Surely we should have amended the motion. Am I correct? Mr. Town Clerk?
Town Clerk, please, do you know?
The way in which I understand it is that you have voted to do it subject to the necessary due diligence being undertaken.
Well, none of that was said.
But I think that was the import of the of what it is that is necessary in order to give effect to it. Is it not?
It is, absolutely.
But we've had this over the last couple of weeks that people are not understanding what they're voting for, and I think we need to be careful, Mr. Town Clerk.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Item 7, coronavirus and annual leave. You've got some papers here. Can I pass this over to Town Clerk, please?
Thank you, Chairman. The briefing note you've got before you sets out in short order, really, the current position. As you'll appreciate, there have been exceptional demands upon staffing capacity over the course of the year. During a conversation that I had with the staff side representative within the organisation, the suggestions that are mooted here came out. Whether the council wishes to take one or other up or not, as the case may be, is very much a matter for the council. Essentially, what they're recognising is that operating on 25% less staff than you normally would, there have been some log jams in terms of ability to take leave, and those will continue. And they're offering you either the opportunity, should you wish to take it up, of the facility whereby people could take over from one leave year to the next, an additional 2.5 days over and above that which they're currently entitled to, or if you wanted more of a quid pro quo with employees, I should say, whereby for each day that was taken over, they would forego one of the days they had. I think the critical thing to bear in mind in relation to the report is it is an underlying principle of it that whatever happens, every member of staff shall take the minimum leave which is required by government guidelines and legislation, because what we don't want is a position where people are unable to do that and their health and welfare in the workplace suffers. These are completely discretionary in terms of whether you wish to go with one, other or both, and it's a matter for members to decide how and if you wish to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ellis, please.
Chairman, if I may, I'd like to propose a further recommendation. As we know, our officers and staff have worked through a very uncertain time. They've worked when we are under capacity with staff. They've gone above and beyond with their duties and with their working hours. So I would like to propose that we as a council award all our staff an extra 2 days leave at Christmas, for those that are not working, and for those that are working over the Christmas, an extra 2 days to be taken no later than the end of January, in order for us to say thank you for all their hard work and diligence during the COVID period.
Thank you very much, James. In fact, at the end, we were going to propose, after I'll bring Leslie Crawford in a minute, we actually were going to propose this for council, having considered it yesterday with the mayor, that maybe this would be a very good thing in this COVID year to do exactly what you said, or nearly exactly what you said, and actually propose that every member of council, of our work staff at all levels, gets an extra 2 days holiday, basically to be taken in December. If fitting in with the colleagues and fitting in with what's needed, but basically an extra 2 days as a thank you. Now, we will discuss that later, but how does that square with this proposal here, Town Clerk? I think the two can run together, can't they? And then shall we have Leslie Crawford first, and then maybe your thoughts, please, Town Clerk? You're still muted, Leslie. Leslie, you're still muted.
I can't unmute. Oh,
yeah.
Right. Okay, let's done it. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm sorry, I fully agree with that new proposal. That sounds really good. So long as that is not instead of carrying over the 2.5 days that they haven't used so far. But also, Carl, could you explain what you mean by voluntarily forgoing 1 day's leave at the year end? And I really don't quite understand that statement. So I would hope that they would not be losing a day's leave, and that, you know, if they do wish to give up a day's leave, that they would be paid instead. Is that what you're trying to say? Because I really don't understand that. If you can explain B to me, that would be great. Thank you.
Certainly. To go back to the current arrangements, so ignoring or parking what we're discussing at tonight's meeting, every member of staff has the facility through your current policy arrangements to carry over at the year end a maximum of 5 days leave from one leave year to the next. That's the capped maximum that there is. What the provision, so every member of staff has got that, and they have that this year. If they had, and talking about specifically option B that you've referred to, what that's saying is if council went for that option, if you had, let's just say for the sake of argument, you carry over 5 days, but you still had 6 days that were left, what would happen there would be that you would, as a council, allow the carryover of 3 days, and the person would give up without recompense, because the council is in a difficult financial position, the other 3 days. All it is a different way of doing it, bearing in mind that either which way you are granting a concession to staff, which is greater than what they otherwise would have. As I say, both of these are more than what staff currently are entitled to, but it's a question for the council as to whether you want to go one or other or neither route, as the case may be. And either one of these could be deployed alongside Councillor Ellis's proposition. The one point of clarification, Chairman, I think I would make, and Councillor Ellis can correct me if I'm wrong, is these would not be 2 days to be used at the employee's discretion in December in terms of the 2 days he's talking about. They would be 2 days which would be allocated at Christmas time as part of the council's shutdown period, which means that the council can plan and organise in and around that, knowing that it's going to shut down for those days. And the only people who would have a different facility would be those who are required to work in the pannier market, where, according to his proposition, they would then have to use those 2 days before the end of January. But it's important in terms of organisational delivery. If we just had, you've got an extra 2 days in December and it wasn't associated with a close down, that would be really quite difficult to manage with the number of staff that we've got. So it's effectively 2 extra statutory employers' days allocated by the employer in connection with Councillor Ellis's proposition.
Okay, thank you. Right, Councillor Parker, please. Graham Parker, then Councillor Ewings.
Thank you, Chairman. I joined my first trade union at the age of 17, and I'm still a lifelong member of the Transport and General. And I have to say that I agree entirely with what's behind Leslie's question. If we're providing staff with a facility to forego a day's leave, then we should remember that the reason that they have accrued that leave is that they've been working incredibly hard to keep our business going and to keep our services going to the council. Otherwise, they would have taken the leave. If we effectively give them a choice of either take it or lose it, which is what we're doing, then we're encouraging them to take leave at a time when we can least afford to do it, and we're being unfair to them. My own view is exactly, and I would speak in this way at full council if it was to get there. If we are giving staff the facility to forgo a day's leave, it must be accompanied by the facility to take a day's pay.
Thank you. Councillor Amanda Ewings, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Town Clerk, I can't remember. Do we have an actual leave accumulation scheme that people can have saved up so many days over so many years, and then in the 10th year or whatever that they no before then? But do we have a leave accumulation scheme that people can build up to have about 6 weeks off or whatever?
We don't have a leave accumulation scheme. What we do have is the ability, if someone has a so, for example, a few years ago, we had a member of staff who had a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime holiday. And what we do there is we can be flexible in terms of on an exceptional circumstances basis for an individual to actually enable something like that to be facilitated, maybe by an extra week or whatever else as the case may be. But we don't have something which falls into that category. I mean, I think from where the discussion is going, I mean, these have both been discussed with the union, but I think probably item B is not something which has got the support of the meeting, and therefore I guess the question that poses itself is whether or not, in connection with Councillor Ellis's proposition, you also would wish to agree to item A or not, as the case may be. And whether you see them as being together or separate propositions is a matter for you.
All right, Councillor Crawford, please. They are, yes. We should be able to hear you, Leslie.
Right, thank you. Sorry. Can I just clarify? The five days is what normally you're allowed to carry over and take in local government. That's correct? Is that what you're saying, the usual 5 days, Carl?
That is what our scheme allows for.
And we're actually saying, given these circumstances, we're allowing an extra 2.5 days to do that.
If you adopt
yes,
item A, sorry, if you adopt item A, that is correct.
Right. So, and then we're also looking at giving staff an additional 2 days to be taken at Christmas close down.
If you support Councillor Ellis's proposition, yes, that is correct.
Right, that's fine. I want to. So personally, I really do not understand, and I completely agree with Councillor Parker. I do not understand B in we're asking people to give up a day's leave with no advantage to them. There's no benefit to them at all. They would be losing hand over fist, as far as I can see. So that I couldn't possibly support B in that case, but maybe I've misunderstood it. So I'm just waiting. If you can explain it any differently, then we can perhaps seriously consider that. Thank you.
Sorry, I think just in relation to that, it's a matter for members as to whether they wish to take up any or all of the options. So I think what Councillor Crawford is implying is that alongside Councillor Ellis's proposition, she might be supportive of item A. So effectively, if that were the case, the proposition would be, as amended, would be Councillor Ellis's proposition, 2 days additional leave allocated on specific days at Christmas time, and then the facility for anybody who's already carried over their 5 days at the year, or is in a position to carry over 5 days at year end, who has other leave, to carry over on a once only basis up to a further 2.5 days, if that's the way in which members actually wish to go. And I think that's what you're saying, Councillor Crawford.
Andy, you're muted. Chairman, you're muted.
And any other days that they have overdue, then they lose that, don't they? Basically, the maximum they can have is 7.5 days, in effect, carried over.
It would be the responsibility of the staff member chairman to ensure that they utilise their leave. To be perfectly honest, I think if you're looking at a 7.5 day threshold, the practical reality is, given the fact that they also need to meet their statutory minimum number of days leave, realistically, it's highly unlikely that someone's going to find themselves in a position where they've got more than 7.5 days. So I think you've probably got a catch all there if that's the route you go.
Okay. Has anybody got, sorry, Councillor Smith, please, and then Councillor Ewings.
Yeah, Chairman, can't support option B. I just don't think that's the sort of way we ought to go. I do support option A, and all with the attachment of the proposal from Councillor Ellis. I believe that's the way forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Ewings, please.
Thank you. It was finally confirmed it's 7.5 days that can be carried forward. And if that person is then, if we agree to the 2 extra days, could somebody say when Christmas lockdown is for the staff to be able to have those days, apart from potentially the pannier market staff? Help, please.
My apologies, I didn't catch the back end of that, Chairman, but if it was what I thought it was, effectively what will happen is we will look at the Christmas period and we will allocate the 2 days in such a way as to give the best continuous block of time in relation to the 2 days that are allocated and designated by the council, so that there is a continuous block of time, so that the council has a shutdown period which minimises impact on council services and on the community generally. As I, I can't remember this year in terms of where it falls, but that's what we would do from that point of view.
Okay, thank you. So I think the proposal then, as I see it at present, is that everybody's entitled, is proposal A in effect, everybody is entitled to carry over 5 days. We are agreeing that if they have more than 5 days to carry over, they can carry up to 2.5 days. As a separate thing, and we can have it all in one motion, that we are giving all members of staff an extra 2 days holiday to be taken basically at the decision of the council officials, knowing what the workload is needed, etc. And it's got to fit in with what the council wants. Everybody has 2 days as well. Is that right? I think that's right. Now, is anybody prepared to propose that, please? I mean, I'm prepared to propose that. Will somebody second that? Right, shall we have a vote on that? And so Councillor Smith has seconded it. So those in favour, please. Does everybody understand what we're doing? It's A on our report here, plus this extra 2 days. So those in favour, please. Thank you. Anybody against? Right, I think that's carried, Town Clerk. Thank you. Right, items circulated for information. Sustainability group. We've got the minutes. Does Leslie want to update us a little bit on that and tell us what's happened since? You should be there, Leslie.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I'm really struggling to unmute myself, and I'm not sure why. I can hear people when it says that they're muted, so I think I might have a bit of delay tonight. Yes, I've written to everybody on this that we agreed that I would contact, I do have a query about under number 6, update of activities. The potential for West Devon Borough Council's new head of placemaking, Sarah Gibson, to address the date at a future meeting, which was welcome. The chairman undertook to liaise regarding arrangements. I don't remember agreeing to do that. I've not heard of Sarah Gibson before. I don't know her role. I have written to Drew Powell and Andy Williams. Sorry, I've got the names here. Drew Powell and Adam Williams, sorry. And they, who is, sorry, Drew Powell is head of, what is he head of?
Head of governance.
Thank you, that's it. And Adam Williams is the Climate Change and Biodiversity Officer at West Devon. So I've written to them, but I haven't written to Sarah Gibson, as I didn't have any record of that. So my apologies if I missed that. But otherwise, yes, I've looked at writing to people, and they are all happy to come along and talk to us in January when we can set
Sarah's recently been appointed, and she is, and Graham can then explain it, she's the new Tom Jones. So Graham can now explain.
I think planning then. Thank you.
Yeah. Graham tells us, and then Councillor Ellis, please, because he's had his hand up for a point.
Okay, when you first, I think, asked for those, that this update came up, Tom Jones was the head of placemaking. He's the guy who led the local plan team. But my guess is that somebody's being very bright, realised that Tom Jones has been left now for several months, and the Sarah Gibson's now been appointed and just updated the name. You've got the same officer, but the new person.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to stand corrected, but I believe the notes are inaccurate, as we did not elect a vice chairman. One was proposed and seconded, and Councillor Mrs. Crawford said she would, because the Wi-Fi was messed up, would take a vote at the end, and we never had that vote.
I thought that we did manage to get, we might not have voted on it, but certainly Ursula agreed to take up the post of being vice chair. So we might not have, we might not have voted on it. I know she agreed, so, okay.
Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, we didn't vote on it, but I believe all members are here, so I'm happy to confirm that vice chairmanship right now, if we're allowed to do that.
Why not? Yes. Is there anybody else apart from Councillor Mann who wishes to be vice chairman?
Chairman, if I may, I think this was one of those occasions where, and if the minutes do not fully reflect it, my apologies, where it was that there was some discussion around whether or not the group required a vice chairman. Councillor Mann, I think, may have been having some issues in terms of logging in, but we sort of went round. Councillor Mann indicated that she was prepared to stand for the post, and as your officers, we took it as being the assent of the meeting, that in those circumstances, because as you'd appreciate, very often is the assent of the meeting in these situations. If we got that wrong, my apologies, but that was the reason why it reflects what we had understood the sense of the meeting to be.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Mann?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was a meeting in which I had a lot of connection difficulty because of something to do with our Wi-Fi, I believe. Yeah, that's what happened. And I do remember actually typing in the comments section that I would take up that role, which is great. And the only other thing I just want to, going on to the comments about the head of placemaking, I don't remember really specifically saying that we wanted the head of placemaking. I think we wanted to talk to somebody about open spaces, which I'm sure will come under head of placemaking to some degree, but there was a discussion there that was about parks and the money that was to do with the parks and environmentally what that would be. So I don't remember.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ewings, please.
That is Alexis, and I can't think of her surname. I will let you know in a second, and I'll put it in the comments box, okay, in the chat box.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alexis Huggins.
Okay, thank you. Right, I think that there's nothing to vote on there, Leslie, so thank you very much for that. 9, external auditor certificate. Over to Carl, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The external auditor's certificate is on the website with the link that you have before you, and I'm pleased to report that it was a clean bill of health for the last financial year. Clearly, we face a much more challenging financial year but last year was itself challenging. It's just that we never expected something as big as this year and coronavirus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we note that. 10, Pannier Market update from the Market Reeve. Now, he's not here, but he's given a report. Does Wayne want to speak to this, or is this more for information?
It's for information unless the General Manager wishes to come in, Chairman.
And any update, Wayne, that we need to know about?
In relation to report, like Carl said, it's just for information. But we did have the Town Hall and Consultative Group meeting recently, where we have agreed that the Pannier Market will be open from the 2nd, so tomorrow. And it will be operating right through until Christmas Eve. So every single day, including Sundays and Mondays and Wednesdays, right up to the 24th. And also Butchers Hall will be open pretty much throughout that whole period as well. When we get to the new year, we are looking at operating 5 days a week, back to the normal Tuesday to Saturday operating, 9 till 4.
Okay, thank you very much. That really is excellent news that the Pannier Market's open for so long now till Christmas. So I think everybody in the whole town has got to use it, and a lot of the other shops as well, of course. A lot of them are doing a late night opening 3 days a week as well. So it's really getting the town going. Good. Pennant Shareholding.
Councillor Mann, Chairman. Sorry to interrupt.
Councillor Mann.
You mentioned it actually, Chairman, just at the end. I was just curious. I know I asked at the last budget meeting about late night opening, and at the time we'd sort of had a discussion around the fact that that's not really generally taken off when it's been proposed in the past by the bid. I believe this year that there's 40 businesses that are on the list that are going to support the late night opening in town. And I just wonder if that's something that you have discussed with the representatives from the market to see if there's any further interest in light of that development.
That has been discussed, yeah. Part of the difficulty we've had in the past, there has been significant buy-in before when late night opening was considered, and unfortunately it didn't come to fruition with all the people that said they would buy in. And on the days where it was operated at the start, when there wasn't very good footfall, you had a significant amount of dropouts for the following weeks. The discussion we've had, either way, we've got late night shopping planned for Butchers Hall and the Pannier Market for the 4th, so the Friday, operating until 7 o'clock. We have looked at all of our rotors to ensure that all the perimeter gates will be open till 7 o'clock on the Thursday, Friday and Saturday, so that all the perimeter shops have the opportunity to buy into the late night shopping principles. And we will make a judgment call on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday of this week to try and see what footfall is like, to actually consider whether to consider maybe the following week looking at doing a Friday again. The feedback from all the traders at the consultative group was absolutely no, they did not want to buy into it, and they did not want to buy into the 4th. But from our perspective, it's recognising a wider approach. We're trying to support the town, and it will be very much I think, judgment call based on how things operate this week if we consider the following week on potentially a Friday.
Thank you. The Mayor, please. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very quiet, Anne.
Oh, sorry. I've had to put these earphones on. Sorry. Can
You're
you hear
still
me now?
very quiet.
Can you not hear me now?
Just.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to declare an interest in that my daughter will be trading in the Butchers Hall on 2 occasions.
No, you're hardly audible.
I think that
It's varying dramatically. It's when
I think the mayor's declaring an interest, Chairman,
right.
and the interest is by virtue of a family relationship in connection with trading in the butcher's hall.
Right, thank you, thank you. Okay, so can we move on, I think? So we just basically want people to go and start buying things now in Tavistock this month. Penny holding. This is basically an annual note, the holding of the council, that we have 491 shares in a group called Pennon Group PLC. Does anybody want to comment or any more information? No, we'll move on. Urgent business brought on by me. There's one article of urgent business, which is Councillor Harry Smith wants to discuss time capsules with us. Over to you, Harry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As part of the development of the Guildhall car park and the moving of the Duke, it was agreed that a time capsule should be accommodated somewhere in the scheme. Provision has been made within the scheme for a stainless steel capsule at ground level near the base of the statue. The contents are being arranged by Tavistock Lions, who incidentally are covering the cost, the substantial cost of the actual capsule. The contents of the capsule, which is 50 centimetres by 100 centimetres, will have input from the Lions, Tavistock Community and St Rumen's Primary Schools and the Town Council. As a council, we need to agree what item or items we want to include in the capsule. Just by way of information context, years ago there was a similar exercise, but at that point, I think it's when they're doing the boundary stones, the Town Council had a capsule all of its own. And within that capsule at that time, there were the very interesting articles, a copy of the council's best value plan, great reading, a set of meeting minutes, a copy of the Heart of Tavistock book, photographs of the Millennium Tapestry and the Town Twinning Scroll, and the very precious past mayor's badge. So they were all in it when we had a capsule all of our own. What we need to do tonight, I suggest, is agree a way forward for the council to agree as a whole what it wishes to put in the capsule. The provision has been made. There's a piece of tubing in the ground where the capsule will slide into, and there'll be a formal celebration, hopefully the mayor placing the capsule in its place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments? Councillor Moody, please, and then Councillor Ellis.
I think we've got to include the most recent publication of former councillor and freeman of Tavistock, Ted Sherrill's book, I should think.
Okay, Councillor Ellis, please.
Does Councillor Smith know the dimensions of this time capsule?
Yeah, 50 centimetres by 10 centimetres, which is, I think it's 19 inches, 500 mil by 100 mil. I don't think Mr. Sherrill's book would actually fit in, having had a hard copy of it. And really what I would imagine what the council would be looking at is something that's of the time, something which will reflect the time we're in when, reflect the current time, I suspect.
Okay, Councillor Ewings, please.
Ted could be asked if he would like to write something. I admit nobody will be able to really read it, and it will probably have the ubiquitous Tipex, as I call it, within it. But actually, he could convey the feelings, emotion of the town during COVID, probably better than most of us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Parker's White Bear. Councillor Parker.
Welcome to Tavy Ted. You'll read all about this in the Tavy Times this week. There's lots and lots of incredible photographs that appear on Facebook. Various people with collections of photographs of Tavistock through the age, coming right up to date. It is perfectly possible to store them on a USB drive. So size is no object. I suggest that be one of the things that we do include, so people in the future can see where we've been, what we've lived through, what we've achieved. I appreciate that will mean that we'll have to preserve somewhere on our premises a USB drive that can read the thumb drive, but yeah, it seems to me that would take advantage of the technology.
Yeah, Councillor Mann, she's probably going to say you need a reader.
That was exactly what I was going to say. USBs are almost on the way out already, so you might have some difficulty there. But maybe we could get a whole device that we could put in there that all it needs is a charger. The only thing I saw when I was researching this was that paper is a very difficult medium to include in time capsules if they are going to be underground for any length of time. And then the other thing I was just going to say in response to Councillor Parker's is that I know that the mayor's partner has taken a wonderful photo from the top of St. Eustatius that was particularly fitting during lockdown, when it has nobody visible in town, which is quite unusual on a very beautiful day. That would be a wonderful addition to any photo album of Tavistock. That is also unique because it's from the bell tower. So anyway, that's my...
Good. Okay, Councillor Parker, please, and then Councillor Williamson.
I did say that I appreciate that we would have to preserve a reader in order to achieve it, but it also seems to me that the organisations that are involved in this, THT, the Town Council, Lions and St Ruman's School, the children there would be a perfect panel to choose which photographs to include. It's something that the community could get involved in.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williamson, then the Mayor, please.
A suggestion for the capsule would be real money, because by the time it gets opened, the plastic notes we're using at the moment will probably have ceased to be circulated. We'll all be using phones and other electronic funds transfer mechanisms. And lastly, an apology for being late. I was dopey. I went too far down the agenda, and I'm grateful for the Mayor WhatsApping me to tell me I was in the wrong place. I've been sat here for 40 minutes or whatever. Anyway, apologies.
Right, thank you very much. Mayor, do you want to speak? No, sorry. Okay. How do we want to move this forward, Harry? Because obviously we've got ideas. They presumably, I mean, I'll be quite honest, as a member of the Lions, I've not even heard about the Lions being involved yet. So maybe one or two members are, but they've not told the normal people members. How are we going to move it forward? Do you need a small committee, or are you going to go on our behalf to meet with the Lions and heritage people, etc.?
I'm happy to receive all the suggestions and try and work through them, but I suspect that to keep it strictly above board, if you like, that there would need to be a decision of council what should be in there. I really look to the town clerk to see what he thinks about making sure that we're absolutely as we should be.
Just town clerk, please.
I mean, taking Councillor Smith's suggestion to the next stage, if colleagues are happy to feed back to him their suggestions, perhaps if he could do some triaging of what he feels to be the strongest ones, then when these minutes come forward on the 15th of December, there's an opportunity then to say these are the top 2 or 3 or 4 things that might appropriately be included. That also affords the opportunity to ensure that in terms of the space available, whatever it is that we're doing matches up with the other partner organisations, because clearly if they're going to have something bulky, then we're going to need to look at something small and vice versa, as the case may be. But I think probably, I mean, there's a wide range of suggestions that have already been made. It's really about just capturing the essence of what it is that you as councillors feel will communicate the Tavistock that you know and love for future generations, for the time when this comes to be unearthed. So
Okay.
if you're happy with that, then that's something that could be reported back at council, if that's okay with you, Councillor Smith.
Yes, I'm happy with that, Town Clerk.
Okay, that's great. So any more ideas that people have to Harry Smith, please, before next council meeting? Right, that's the end of part 1 now. So we're now going to stop this streaming live and we'll all meet again in about 10 minutes. But remember that you're on a different Zoom numbers and different passwords. So make sure everybody comes back on the second meeting, the one that says 6 o'clock, even if it's not